Hello everyone. We have come to the end of 2020 and it is time for me to make my annual video where I sum up all of the traveling we did in the past year. The one thing I can say about 2020 is that when it started, everything I had planned for travel did not happen. Not a single thing that we had planned at the beginning of the year actually happened, or that I planned in the first couple of months. Because I did plan a couple things in the first couple of months, and those didn't happen either. And actually, I also have to add that a couple of trips I had planned for 2021 also got canceled. Now, I canceled those in anticipation cruises. In anticipation of things not being back to normal with cruising, and probably those cruises might get canceled anyway because of things about them. But yeah, so the biggest things, I guess, were Megan's trip to France and Switzerland that she was supposed to take with her French teacher and other French students in June. That got rescheduled to 2021, but then after rescheduling, later Megan decided to just cancel. I have not heard if that trip is still a go or not. I really don't think it will happen because I don't think that it would be June again, and I just don't think international travel for students is going to be that back in play that quickly. I mean, that's only 6 months away. That's less than 6 months away. So, and with testing and everything, I feel like that's a way complicated situation that a student travel organization is not prepared to handle. So I don't think that's going to happen either. But Megan decided to back out of the trip anyway. She really feels strongly that she would prefer her first time going to Europe to be with me. So, and I will come to that in my next video. January, February, we often don't go anywhere. It's deep in winter here in Wisconsin, and it's not a great time for traveling. It's nice to go somewhere in January, February. And I definitely would like to go back to Disney World sometime in January, February, because I want to go to the Festival of the Arts at Epcot. And also, it's very nice to escape to Florida when it's brutal winter here. But we didn't have anything planned. We didn't have any intention of going anywhere in January and February. But in those first 2 months of the year, I was still trying to figure out at the beginning of the year if we were going to go to anywhere on spring break, which our spring break is in March. It's not really spring, but it's still winter. But anyway, they call it spring break. I hadn't decided, and a lot of the issue was money. In 2020, and again coming up here in 2021, unfortunately, I'm going to have to use a very large portion of my tax refund to catch up on the joint student loan I have with my ex-husband. This was the stupidest federal program ever. In the early 2000s, late 90s, they allowed people to consolidate your student loans with your spouse. They did not anticipate the fact that sometimes spouses get divorced. And once those loans are consolidated, there is absolutely no way to separate them. Look it up. You'll see the horror stories online. And the only way that I will ever be free of the student loan that he is not paying is if he dies or Congress does something. It actually went before Congress last year or the year before, and they let it die in committee. So that's not going to happen. I got behind a couple years ago on the student loan because I'm paying both our student loans basically, and mine is massive because I have a bunch of degrees. And we let the interest accrue, and it's like 4 times what it was originally. So that took up a lot of my, what would normally be my travel money, which is unfortunate. But anyway, sorry for that little financial woe aside. If you have experience with spousal consolidation student loans, share my agony in the comments below. I was still trying to decide if we were going to do something over spring break when we got to the beginning of March even. I had toyed with the idea of taking the kids to London. I had thought about going to Chicago. I had a whole bunch of ideas in mind, and I still hadn't really decided anything because it was going to have to be last minute that I would book whatever it was when I got my tax refund. I was watching the virus from the very beginning. I was seeing that in the news, and I do that. Whenever there's some kind of illness, like just recently, There was a whole bunch of people sick in this particular city in India. Ooh, I watched that like a hawk. Because anytime, especially over in Asia, because, like that's where the flu starts every year and everything. Anytime you hear about a new illness or a new virus or something like that, it'll be a tiny little blip in the science news. I keep an eye on those. And I think that's why I've had a much easier time adjusting to and accepting the pandemic than pretty much everybody else I know, is because I was watching it before it was even news. I was keeping an eye on this virus in China. If you've watched the news recently, if you really look at the science news closely, they've now determined that the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is the virus that causes COVID-19, they've determined that it was first in a young boy in Europe in December of 2019, and that they think, based on like sewage and stuff in one city in Italy, they think it was in play in Europe as early as September of 2019. So it was around a lot earlier than a lot of people think it was. And it was definitely in the United States much sooner than people think it was. So by the time I even started paying attention to it in the news, and before the issues with the Princess cruise ships and all of that, it was already spreading in the United States. People didn't take notice of it. It wasn't declared a pandemic until mid-March of 2020. So right around that time when I was still deciding what to do about spring break, that's when everything exploded and the news came at us hard and fast. And I remember frantically picking up my son from school and saying, let's go get your haircut right now because I don't think you're going to have another chance. And he's like, okay. And he got in the car. He never went back to school. I kept my kids home. The governor closed schools like 3-4 days later, but I did not send my kids back to school after that. Interestingly, there was probably no danger to them at that time whatsoever. I would argue that now is much more dangerous for kids to be in school. Our schools are closed at the moment, but that eliminated any possibility of spring break. And I was fine with that because I hadn't really decided on anything anyway. I was like, okay, we don't get to go on spring break. Nobody else got to go anywhere either. Everything had shut down. Everything closed. It was a no-brainer. Nobody was going anywhere on spring break. Okay, the next thing, though, that we were worried about was then we started to get very nervous for Megan's trip to France and Switzerland because that was, less than 3 months away. I knew pretty much from the beginning, and I think she probably did too, it wasn't going to happen. I mean, even though the president was saying, oh, the virus will be gone by Easter, it'll be gone by summer. Okay, look back at this video I made in March of 2020 and see that I already knew that none of that was going to happen, okay? I will be making a follow-up for that video a year afterwards, by the way. So I don't know when they made the decision that that trip was going to not be happening. It wasn't very long. I think it was like in April, maybe. I could go back and look at our videos to see when we talked about it. And then I had also booked a cruise for me and Andrew and Ben to take on Voyager of the Seas, I think, while Megan was going to be in France. I canceled that before Royal Caribbean got a chance to cancel on me and thankfully got my money back right away. So that wiped out all of our 2020 plans. We didn't have anything planned beyond that. We did get to take 3 trips in 2020. And I think we probably spent about the same number of nights in hotels traveling that we would in any other year. The only major difference was that all of our travel got compressed into summer, which was fine, but is not my favorite thing. Because, first of all, as I've mentioned before, and the kids feel this way too, we're not big fans of doing stuff when it's hot. We don't really like getting hot and sweaty. Actually, our trip to Mackinac Island was fine. That was not hot. It was actually quite cool. Especially Colorado. It was really hot when we went to Colorado. So that's one disadvantage. The other disadvantage of having them all compressed together in a 3-month time period like that is then we didn't get to go anywhere the whole rest of the year. The first part of the year, like the first third of the year, if you will, like up to May or whatever, that made sense that we didn't get to go anywhere. We didn't have any firm plans in place. The pandemic had just started. Nobody was going anywhere. End of story. So that was no big deal. By summer, the numbers were down. Things were looking a little better. It was not so bad. So we decided to travel safely. And if you go back and watch my videos, and I have videos about all of these things on my channel, I have a playlist of our Mackinac Island trip, which I will link right up here, which was a great trip. We went to Mackinac Island in June. If you're not aware, Mackinac Island is an island up in Lake Huron, just on the Lake Huron side of the Mackinac Bridge. The Mackinac Bridge connects Upper Michigan with Lower Michigan. Mackinac Island is just east of that on the Lake Huron side. The other side is Lake Michigan. We drove up there and spent, it was a 4-night trip, I think. 1 night on the mainland in St. Ignace. I did a hotel review of that one and talked a lot about staying in a hotel during the pandemic in that video. And then 3 nights on the island. And we had a really fun time. I'd always wanted to take my kids to Mackinac Island. Andrew has actually been there, but I doubt he remembers it. He was 2-3 years old. And we went in the fall that time with my parents. They loved it. It's really neat. It's a cool island. The water was beautiful. It was about as close to being on the ocean as you can get if you're not actually at the ocean, is being on one of the Great Lakes. The ferry ride was fun. That was our cruise for the year, was taking a ferry. The weather was really nice, except for when we first got there, it was raining. But otherwise, temperature-wise, it was really nice. And the rest of the time, it didn't rain. We liked where we stayed. We got to do a lot of fun activities. The historical architecture and just the charm of the island is really neat. You know, we got to go to the fort. We got to go biking. We got to go horseback riding. That was Ben's first time really horseback riding. You know, we had a really great trip. So that was a really fun trip. And I'm really glad we got to do that because I had always wanted to take my kids to Mackinac Island, take Megan and Ben. We didn't go anywhere in July. And then in August, we got bats again. I'm really hoping we don't keep getting bats every single year because I talked about it in the video I made about that, but it's very expensive to have them come and do the stuff to get rid of the bats. Not to mention it's nerve-wracking. We decided to get out of here because it just completely stresses me out once I realize that they're in the house. And so we went to Wisconsin Dells and made a whole bunch of videos in Wisconsin Dells, which I have a couple Wisconsin Dells playlists, but I'll put one of them up here. And we just spent a few days going around and doing like resort tours and stuff to show what the resorts were doing in the pandemic and such. That was just kind of a little mini getaway that we hadn't really planned. I mean, we literally spur of the moment decided to pack a bag and get out of here like that night. I remember Ben didn't even have any shoes. We stopped at Kohl's on our way out of town and bought Ben shoes. So it was just literally like, we're getting out of here because I can't deal with the bats. And so that was what we did at the beginning of August. Basically just focused on making videos for the channel. We did do a couple of fun things. We went on the Upper Dells boat tour, which we had not done. I don't think any of us had ever done it. The last trip we took in 2020 was at the end of August of 2020, and it was over my birthday. I should mention, when we went on our cruise on Mariner of the Seas over my birthday in 2018, I loved being on the ocean so much for my birthday. I absolutely love the ocean. I said to the kids at that time, I want to be at or on the ocean for all my birthdays for the rest of my life. It hasn't happened since. So it has not happened since. God dang it. We did not get to go to the ocean in 2019. I don't know what the reason was. What did we do in 2019? I'll have to look back. I don't know what we were doing in August of 2019 on my birthday, but we didn't go to the ocean. And then in 2020, we decided to do something else that was kind of on the kids' bucket list, which Ben talked about in a previous video. They had not been to the mountains. Okay, so equally majestic, if you will, as going to the ocean. I decided to take the kids to the mountains, and we took a big, giant road trip out to Colorado. These videos have not done well on my channel, which is kind of a disappointment to me because there's some really cool stuff that we got to do and see. And I'll link the playlist right up here from our Colorado trip in August. So please, if you haven't watched those, go back and take a look at the videos because some of them are really cool. We did this big road trip out to Colorado, and we did a bunch of stuff out in Colorado in the mountains. And we stayed in Vail. We rode 3 different gondolas up the mountains. We hiked up in the mountains. We hiked at Red Rocks Park near Denver. We went horseback riding in Rocky Mountain National Park. Lots of cool life experiences for my kids to have. Really, really good stuff that you should definitely be doing with your kids if you can. And so that was a really great trip. It was very hot, and it was a lot of driving, and it was very challenging in some ways because we were traveling in the pandemic and we were going to new places, and I made, I talk about this in the videos, especially when we got to South Dakota, things got tricky in some spots. And I had to be very flexible. And it's definitely not easy or carefree traveling during the pandemic. I'm actually kind of off of it. Like, I really now have kind of come to the point where I think I'd really like to wait until it's over. I really want to travel more and get more vlogs for you guys. Although sometimes I notice the videos that I make here at home, our Universal Yums videos, the videos about my injuries to my ankles, do better than the vlogs I make traveling, which really surprises me because I feel like people would really like to see more travel vlogs. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Which kind of video that I make do you enjoy the most? What are your favorite types of videos that I make? I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave it in the comments below. That would be great. I think my Disney vlogs would have done better. If you go back to our Disney trip in 2019, our Disney videos probably would have done better, except that they were very much at the beginning of my channel. And I just don't think enough people had discovered my channel yet. I didn't have enough people watching that if I went to Disney World now, I'd obviously get a lot more people watching my videos of Disney World than they did back then. My cruise videos, some pretty specific videos, our cruise in 2018 from Mariner of the Seas are very popular. Some of the most popular videos on my channel. I definitely think in the future, when we go on more cruises, those videos are going to do well. Would you agree? Do you want to see more cruise videos? Leave that in the comments below. And then my Wisconsin Dells videos, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised because Wisconsin Dells has over 4 million visitors a year. Even during the pandemic, I think. I mean, I'm sure it was down somewhat, but it was still plenty busy when we were there. Those videos do very well. They're extremely popular. Even the ones that people hate me. I've gotten a lot of hate off of videos that I made at Wisconsin Dells, specifically the ones during the pandemic. This has happened to my friend Morgan at Very Unofficial Travel Guides too. People seem to think if you give your honest opinion and share what you actually observe and experience, that just by sharing that honestly and openly, that you're complaining or that you're being difficult. And I don't think that's true at all. I don't think either Morgan and I are doing that. I think we're trying to help you understand what we see and what we experience and what it's really like. That's definitely been Morgan's motto since the very beginning of his channel. And that's what I want too, especially like my focus is on families, is I want you to know what it's really like. If this place is awful, I want you to know it's awful. If they're not being safe for the pandemic, I want people to know that. Because if you're someone like me who takes that very seriously and has high-risk people in your family like we do, that's important to you, right? So if you're not and you don't care, then you can ignore my advice, but you don't have to attack me because I'm sharing that, because I'm trying to be open and honest and informative of all of my viewers. I want everybody to know this is what it was like. This is what we saw on this particular day when we were there. Maybe that's not what you saw when you were there, but on that day when I was there, I'm showing you what I saw. That's always my goal on this channel, is to show you exactly what it was like and to tell you exactly what we experienced. Obviously, we have different opinions and tastes and stuff, especially when it comes to like food and, things like that. And everybody likes different things, but we just try to, as best we can, share our experiences and what we personally observe when we go to places and what we felt like when we were there. Did we feel safe? Was this fun? Did this taste good? That's what we're trying to do on this channel. And I hope that you understand that and appreciate that, because that's all I'm trying to do. Keep that in mind whenever you watch my videos when we go places, that's what I'm trying to do for you. I'm trying to explain to you as best I can and show you exactly what it's like when I go to the places, so you know what it'll be like if you want to go there. We had a trip planned over Thanksgiving break, flying to the East Coast, and we were going to make a big loop around the Chesapeake Bay. We had tickets to a number of things. I'm very sorry that I was not able to make the videos of this trip for you. We were going to go to Colonial Williamsburg. We were going to go to Busch Gardens Christmas celebration. We had tickets to both of them. We were going to go to the ocean. I had a beautiful suite right on the beach. It would have been cold, but I don't care. Dang it. Okay. In Ocean City, Maryland, we were going to go to Hershey, Pennsylvania and go to Hershey Park to their Christmas thing. We had tickets to Hershey's Chocolate World. Yeah. We didn't do any of that. My kids actually really pushed for me not to go, which might surprise you. At the time, the CDC and the government was really urging Americans, please, please, please do not travel. And I guess the theme parks a little bit made us nervous. Ben was especially nervous about Hershey Park because we'd seen some other people's videos about that and we're not terribly confident with mask compliance. And then when it came down to it, the airplane just really made me nervous. I asked a couple of people that I knew had flown about their experience flying during the pandemic. I asked my friend Jen from Jen and Joe on the Go. Jen obviously has a much more relaxed level of tolerance for stuff during the pandemic than I do, which is fine. That's how she feels. That's great. She's just a lot more comfortable doing some of the things that I do not feel safe doing. And it's probably because of my own medical condition. I've mentioned before I have a pretty serious heart condition. I cannot get this virus. I just can't. I cannot take that chance. I'm all my kids have. I can't let anything happen to me. I mean, even hurting my ankles is really bad. If I get sick or had to be to the hospital, that would be a disaster for my kids. So I just cannot risk it. I'm not going to do some of the things that Jen's doing. We're not going to fly. We're not going to go eat inside restaurants. We did it a couple times and it was enough to make me uneasy. I'm not going to do it again. And then I asked Morgan, who lives in Germany, so different ball of wax, but Morgan was pretty blunt with me. He's like, I'm going to tell you, it's going to make you break out into a cold sweat. He said, it's not great. He was, pretty direct and said he had somebody next to him on the plane, wasn't wearing her mask. They told her to put it back on. She kept taking it off. He was surprised at a couple things. He was surprised at how orderly people were about getting off the plane, which he said usually Germans are like, let's go, because they want to be efficient. He said that he definitely had reservations. He definitely did not feel comfortable enough to me to say, oh yeah, it's no big deal. You'll be fine. He did not say that. He said the opposite. And so that gave me pause. And I kept reading about conflicting studies about, on airplanes. And then after Ben and David, I think this was the thing that really, I don't know which happened first, my canceling the trip or them telling me this. I'm a patron on Ben and David's channel too, and we chat sometimes, cruise with Ben and David. They had gone on the Seabourn Yacht Club cruise. They'd done a transatlantic from Southampton to Barbados, and then they stayed on at Sea Dream Yacht Club's request for the next cruise, which was a Caribbean cruise. And that one got cut short, and Sea Dream had to cancel the rest of their cruises because they had a small outbreak of the virus on the yacht. It's not really a ship. It's a very small ship. And they were a little dismayed at how things were handled in them not being required to quarantine when they got off, like in a hotel in Barbados, which they were completely prepared to do. And the fact that the Barbadian government and Sea Dream basically said, you must get on this plane right now and go home to Britain. Goodbye. And they didn't have a choice. And that plane, the pictures that I saw that they took of that flight and getting on and getting off and on the plane horrified me. No. No. No distancing, masks. I mean, they put the fear of God into me on that one. And they weren't comfortable with it. And so, and they're a lot, and like Jen, they're a lot less nervous about getting the virus than I am. So those things, I really appreciate those other creators sharing their experiences with me, because that helped me make my decision. Once I had made the decision, I'm still sad that we didn't get to do that trip. And I really do hope that we can do that same trip that I had planned sometime in the future, maybe next Christmas. I have so many Christmas trips I want to do. There's so many cool things to go see at Christmas. I'm still very sad we didn't get to do that, especially now that I got hurt and I can't walk and drive and stuff and I can't do anything. We can't even do Christmas things around here. We couldn't even go. We had tickets to 2 different drive-through light things for Christmas. Couldn't do those because I can't drive. That's a bummer. I was still sad and disappointed. I don't think the kids were even as sad or disappointed as I was. They were excited about going. But as it got closer and with all the warnings we were getting from the CDC, they were saying, Mom, I really don't think we should go. My son Andrew said, Mom, I would really rather you didn't go. He did not like the idea of anything happening to us, to me and his brother and sister. So I can't just ignore my kids when they're saying, I don't think we should go. How often does that happen, that you have a cool, fun trip planned and your kids are saying we shouldn't go? So I needed to listen to them. Once I made the decision not to go, I felt better. It was the couple of days that I was agonizing about whether I should go that I was really struggling and tears were shed and all of that. The other thing that really came into play again was money. I could afford to take the trip, but that would have made Christmas really difficult. I would not have been able to get the gifts and the new tree. I would not have been able to get that new tree. I would not have been able to get all the gifts that I did. I would not have been able to send my mom flowers on her birthday. Those things, it made that stuff easier. I mean, we still would have, of course, had Christmas, but it would not have been like it ended up being because now I had this money from this trip that I didn't go on. I did not get my money back for everything. My reservation at Hershey's Chocolate World, that didn't cost anything. It was a free ticket, but you just had to have a timed entry pass. Hershey Park, I lost my money. Those are non-refundable, non-transferable. I'm just out the money. That's the second time I tried to book Hershey Park this year and didn't get to go. So that's a bummer. I have a credit with Delta, no change fees for up to a year. So I do really hope I can use those tickets, that credit. I need to rebook it because I think I canceled like right at the end of October. So I think I need to book something before then. I don't think I have to fly before then. I just have to book it before then. And so I'm hoping not to lose that credit with Delta. But that's going to depend how the pandemic goes because, like I said, I just don't feel comfortable flying. I will feel comfortable flying if all 3 of us can get vaccinated. If all 3 of us can get vaccinated, I would be okay flying. Without that, I don't think so. Busch Gardens, they gave me a credit for a year. So I could go to Busch Gardens. So maybe we'll go to Busch Gardens sometime in 2021 because we have a credit with them. Colonial Williamsburg did allow me to cancel and gave me my money back. And the hotel reservations were no problem at all. All of my hotel reservations were with Hilton. They have very flexible cancellation policy right now. And I was canceling well in advance anyway. And so I didn't lose any money on the hotels. And I obviously didn't spend money on a rental car. And I didn't spend money on food. So that money went toward Christmas stuff and household things and bills and stuff instead. So all in all, it turned out fine. But I just wanted you to know that we did have that planned. So that is what happened in 2020. We took 3 trips, all by car, 2 within, one within our state, 1 in a neighboring state, and then 1 longer one that went to 7, 8 other states. And we were fine. None of us got the virus. None of us got sick. Nothing really, really bad happened. I think that the worst thing was probably that scary night in South Dakota where we couldn't find a hotel. We did successfully travel safely during the pandemic. It's not the kind of traveling that I would prefer. Did any of you travel in 2020? If so, where did you go? How did you get there? How did you feel about it? Did you feel safe? Did traveling make you feel more likely to want that, we can do this. We can travel more in the pandemic. This will be fine. Or did it make you think, this isn't the greatest. I don't like traveling during the pandemic. I don't want to wear a mask everywhere I go. I don't want to feel on edge. I don't want to feel like nervous, like I'm going to get a virus if I leave my house or my car. Let me know what your experiences were like traveling. Or if you didn't do any traveling in 2020, and you feel comfortable sharing, would you tell me in the comments why? Did you not travel just because of the pandemic? Or did you not travel because of like financial circumstances? I made a video about that too, about things that are preventing people from traveling a while back. And one of the things is so many people are out of work. I'm out of work. So many people are, lost their jobs and are in really difficult financial circumstances right now that traveling just isn't high on the priority list. So let me know what your travel experiences were or were not like in 2020 in the comments below. I appreciate you sharing those with me. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video today. Give me a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it. And again, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please be sure to subscribe. Have a great day everyone and safe travels.